Good morning. I'm excited to be here with you today to talk about the exciting progress that the blockchain industry has made in recent years in terms of improving its own sustainability and leveraging its potential for climate action at scale. But first things first, let's address the most common question I get while working on blockchain and climate. Not all blockchains are made the same. Depending on the type of consensus mechanism a blockchain uses, its energy intensity will vary. Yes, it is true that the proof of work that Bitcoin is using is very energy intensive. It is also true that many other blockchains, Ethereum, Polygon, Celo, and others, are using a less energy intensive consensus mechanism called proof of stake. Let me be clear. I think Bitcoin and its community of Bitcoin miners should take a hard look in the mirror and address its carbon footprints like everyone else is trying to do. But even if Bitcoin and its miners would cease to exist tomorrow, we would still have the same problem with climate change, inaction on the Paris Agreement goals, and a massive delay on decarbonization of society. So let's go after the big fish. Let's go after the 90 most polluting fossil fuel companies and halt their destruction of life as we know it first, before we chase Bitcoin miners. My name is Anna Lerner. I'm the CEO of Climate Collective. The Climate Collective is a leading coalition of stakeholders, from investors and nonprofit organizations to entrepreneurs and scientists, leveraging trusted, sustainable digital infrastructure to unlock verifiable climate action at scale. Verifiable pieces, particularly important when we talk about blockchain. In simpler words, we're a climate community that uses digital technologies to address climate change globally. I'm honored to be here today to open the Sustainable Blockchain Summit. And starting off, I want to share 2 reflections from my first year as Climate Collective CEO, answer the second most common question I get, and lastly, point to a couple of themes within the blockchain for climate landscape that I'm particularly excited about going forward. My 2 reflections are 1, that you're doing it the right way, and 2, that this is really hard and it might keep being hard for a little bit longer. So on 1, the collaborative spirit I'm witnessing across Web3 is like nothing I've seen before. It's inspiring to see how climate tech startups are pooling solutions, talent, books of businesses, and resources in an effort to create something bigger than the sum of its parts. We're in the very early days of blockchain-enabled climate solutions. And similar to innovation and disruption efforts in other sectors, many startups and products will fail, and that's okay. In fact, that's expected. So I applaud you all for going about this process as collaboratively and collectively as you do. Climate change is a big enough problem, and we should keep ignoring the old saying of the winner takes it all. It just doesn't apply right now. On 2, introducing a new technology and disrupting several existing sectors is hard, really hard. There will be losers to this change and this transformation, and they might initially try to slow down the pace of transformation. How many of you are familiar with the Gartner hype cycle? The Gartner hype cycle is a graphic representation of the maturity life cycle of new technologies and innovations, divided into 5 phases: innovation trigger, peak of inflated expectations, through of disillusionment, slope of enlightenment, and plateau of productivity. When it comes to blockchain for climate, I think we're somewhere in the middle of peak of inflated expectations. Maybe even for some of the voluntary carbon market solutions, the digital MRV protocols, we might even be touching upon the through of disillusionment. But the reality is we still have a long way to go, and that's okay. So how do we move forward faster? My recommendation is always for builders to focus on solving real-world problems and communicate your real-world impact in a simple, straightforward way. So less hype, less jargon, more partnerships with established climate actors, and true value-generating solutions. So take a pause if you don't have a clear go-to-market strategy or product market fit. And come talk to us if you need help to think that through. All right, so back to the question I keep getting. Everyone seems to want to know if blockchain is becoming more mainstream. The short answer is yes and no. What do I mean by that? Well, more and more established climate organizations and corporations are using blockchain in some shape or form for their climate work. The World Bank is using blockchain to coordinate global carbon data and pricing. Leading investment banks are adopting blockchain to issue digital bonds and even launch stablecoins. Global corporations like Walmart, Microsoft, Ernst & Young are using blockchain for supply chain management and ESG reporting, and in some cases to manage decentralized energy production. One of the most downloaded reports from the World Economic Forum this spring is exploring how blockchain can be used to scale climate action. Voluntary carbon market heavy hitters like international emissions trading associations and Gold Standard are using blockchain for carbon credit trading and issuance of digital environmental assets with support from many climate collective members. And UNDP is helping countries build national greenhouse gas inventories on blockchain as a way to transparently report their progress on the Paris Agreement. That said, I think the real revolution will happen, mass adoption, if you will, when blockchain is hidden under the hood, and we all notice its superior features and efficiencies, but don't really talk about the technology. Some of you might remember that in the beginning of mobile phone transformation, we used mobile phones just as a cordless proxy for landlines. I, for one, remember my uncle bringing home this massive box and like a little phone on top of it that he carried with him. And he seemed very unpractical to me at the time. But soon enough, they became our photo album, our alarm clock, our health coach, and our remote office. I see similarities from the early days of tokenizing environmental assets. Early efforts tokenized assets with questionable environmental impact. That is, they took an analog product and made it digital with some level of innovation, but not really that kind of level change and new use cases that we're aiming for. So today, we're seeing most players working on voluntary carbon markets, digital MRV, et cetera, who are busy building out digital infrastructure for a true end-to-end digital carbon market. Maybe even one that will integrate with the Paris Agreement's Article 6.4 and a UN-backed carbon accountability framework. That, to me, is a level change. So to wrap up, I want to remind you that we have no shortage of problems to solve when it comes to climate and sustainability. And I'm so inspired to see groups use digital payment rails, providing payments for ecosystem services to local communities, for example, or to build measure-to-earn products or protocols for more inclusive and just digital monitoring, verification, and reporting. Increasing transparency of debt-to-nature swaps is a great fit for blockchain technology. So are ways to strengthen green accountability in climate finance and international climate policy development. I think in the coming months, coming year, we will see a lot of harmonization of ESG reporting and accountability frameworks. Again, no shortage of need of blockchain solutions. And maybe the most hyped, if we should use that word, opportunity for blockchain would be to increase accountability and transparency around AI and the use of data and algorithms in AI modeling. So wrapping up, I'm wondering what you are looking to learn from the Sustainable Blockchain Summit. Are you here looking for new connections, inspiration, looking for a co-founder? Regardless of the reason you tuned in, I'm excited you're here. We need everyone to work on climate change for us to move the needle on this massive challenge. Climate Collective is a growing community of builders, scientists, investors, and nonprofits. If you're working on an exciting project or have an idea to run by us, don't hesitate to reach out. And I'm going to leave you with this gorgeous view from my remote office up here in Maine. It's raining, which I love. I love rain. And this is what it looks like when I sit and work most days.